Good to see you again. It's me, Miss Scott. Well, today's story is called You Can Do It, Curious George. And it is by Margaret and H.A. Rays. And we are reading stories about being a helper. Our theme for this week, and remember we're talking about story elements, the elements of a story. We have setting, character, plot, and theme, along with, can't read it backwards, point of view. So our theme for this week is being a helper. So all of our books that we're reading this week are about being a helper. And Curious George, what do you think? Can you predict? What do you think he's going to be a helper with today? I don't know. Today's learning objectives, we're going to listen to the story about discovering a talent that can help others. We're going to identify story element, parts of the story element, and we've already talked about that. We're going to identify setting and character, those two parts of story element, and we're going to also discuss fantasy. Fantasy is a story that's not really real, can't really happen. So here we have George acting like the person. Is that real or fiction? Yeah, I agree, it's fiction. Because monkeys don't act like real people, do they? Do you think a monkey could really fly a kite? No, he's not going to be able to really fly a kite, is he? All right, some of the words that you're going to be able to hear in our story today is the word chef. So as a chef is someone who cooks food. Good. Then we're different. Different's a word that we're going to listen for. We're going to listen for the word prize and the word slope. Now, we all know what a prize is, right? And we know what different is, something that's different. But do you know what a slope is? A slope is like an easy mountain. Now, we read this story, The Little Engine That Could, and she came off the mountain. And when you come down, that's called a slope. Okay? All right, let's get started today. You Can Do It, Curious George. Title page. Oh, here's our table of contents. And it says Curious George starts on page 2. This is George. He was a good little monkey and always very curious. George loved going to the museum with his friend. While they were visiting the museum, they saw a sign. The sign said that the museum had won a prize. Oh, there's our word, prize. Did you hear it? I heard it. I'm going to touch my nose because I heard it. People voted this museum was their favorite. They said this museum was the best. Look at those shoddy capitals. When George saw the sign, he started to think, what could he do best? He decided to find out. You can do it, George, said the man in the yellow hat. So far, who are our characters? That's right. It's George and the man in the yellow hat. There are 2 characters in our story. George went back home. He was good at drawing dinosaurs. Maybe he could draw the best dinosaur picture ever. George decided that he liked to draw, but he wanted to try to do something different. He climbed out of the window to look for ideas. Soon, George came to a restaurant and gave him a great idea. Let's predict here. What do you think his great idea is? I don't know. Let's see. George loves spaghetti. He decided he would make the best spaghetti ever. You can do it, George. look at all that spaghetti. George thought it tasted great. He tasted more and more of it and made a big mess. Holy moly. I don't think that looks like a great idea, do you? It's probably not a great job, is it? Mm-hmm. Then the chief came in. Oh, then the chef came in. Get out, he shouted. Out of my kitchen! George was going to have to find somewhere else. Something else he did best. George needed another idea. He got on the bus to think. The bus took him to the ski slopes. That gave George a great idea. He grabbed the biggest sled he could find. Maybe he could sled down the hill faster than anybody ever had before. I can do it. You can do it, George. Can you predict what's going to happen? What do you think is going to happen? Oh, ziggity zag, ziggity zag. At first, sledding was fun. Then George started going faster, too fast. Look out, George! George was going to have to find something else he did best. Can you see the picture? What happened here? What's the inference that the author's trying and the illustrator's trying to make to us? Are they trying to tell us that George crashed? But the words don't say he crashed. It just says he's going to have to find something else he did best. But we know from looking at the picture that he crashed big time. And he didn't even crash by himself. He crashed with somebody else. George needed another idea. Then he remembered something he did better than anyone. He rushed back home. When he got there, he took out his kite. He was going to be the best kite flyer ever. George got his kite to go higher and higher. You can do it, George. Then the kite lifted George right off of the ground. Look out, Baloo! George landed in a tree in the forest. His kite flew away without him. George was going to have to find something else he did best. Just then, George spotted smoke. Oh no! It was a forest fire! Ooh. George wanted to warn everyone about the fire. He raced down and found the fire station. The firefighters quickly put out the fire. Phew! By now, the sun was setting. It was too late for George to figure out what he did best. George's friend met him back at the museum. The director had heard that George warned everyone about the forest fire. She thought that was the best thing anyone had ever done in a long time. George did it! Hooray! He found out what he did best. He is the best helper. George got a very special prize that day. All right, that's the end of the story. And then we start poems for another day. But just remember, boys and girls, sometimes it's important for us to be good helpers. And if you see something, say something. So we need to remember to always try our best. Love you. Have a good day.